Hey guys, Caitlin here again. This is part 2 of our Paper Mario episode. If you haven't listened to the first one, you should go ahead and do that, mostly because you may have missed some context. Also, I think that one was actually quite funny. That's just my 2 cents as a person who edits these things. So yeah, go ahead and listen to part 1 if you haven't. If you have listened to part 1 and you're straight into part 2, welcome back. This conversation should seem slightly more seamless than how I'm making it. You're welcome.
All right, so world building. Okay, so Robin, give us kind of a brief overview of the different areas that we touch on and stuff.
Yeah, so I think one of the things I love most about this game is that, I mean, Mario games in general, I feel like do this super well, as in, like, let's have a whole solar system dedicated to bees. You're like,
Yeah,
what? And then you
No,
go there and you're like, yeah,
absolutely
you
not.
got bees.
No,
You got so,
Caitlin hates bees.
no,
like
no.
ice plant or like underwater levels are super, super famous in Mario, both
Oh
for
yeah.
like the side scroller, but also for like the Super Mario 64, and then also in like Mario Galaxy and stuff. The underwater levels have a very
Super Mario Sunshine.
oh yeah, but they all have, or like even looking at like kind of other adjacent IPs of like Luigi's Mansion and the
Yeah.
Spooky House stuff, right? There's like a lot of like they will pick an environment and they'll do it 110% and it fits. It somehow fits, no matter
Yeah.
how weird it is or niche. And that's one thing I love about Paper Mario is like, so I mentioned earlier that the game's divided into chapters. Each
Mhm.
chapter feels like a completely different planet in the best way. So
Yeah.
the very first, so again, I love that your base town is Rogueport. That is where you are always going to come back to. That is your home base. And it's so funny for me because they're like, we're making a Mario game and we have so many, like, you could do bright sunshiny, like you think of Mario's like Peach's Castle, Super Mario
Mhm.
64, Princess Toadstool, and you can think of like the grass and the beautiful like whatever. And then you think of like all these other different avenues they could have gone for your home base, and they decided to pick the scummiest little weird, like you literally get mugged. That's one of the first
Yeah.
things that happens to you. You get mugged. Like, and that's hilarious. And there's two mobs. There's like two different like worried mafias. That's like an
Oh, that's
undergoing thing that
right.
happens. Yeah.
Yep.
And this is like this town, this home base town that you consistently return to. That's hilarious. I'll talk more about Rogueport later because I absolutely love it. But that's your home base. And then the first place that you go visit is that like it's like the medieval castle with the dragon,
Yeah.
and the big green grassy fields. And there's like a whole village that has like a mayor that's a Koopa. There's the whole village is it's Koopville, it's full of Koopas.
Yeah.
And that's where you get your second partner. Your first one's Goombella, she's a university student that's like a little pink Gooba, and your second one is Koops, and he is a Koopa, and
Oops.
Yeah.
he's very like shy, like he's
Oh,
like trying to go
buddy.
on his first adventure,
Yep.
because it's very sweet. There's like Goombella's like, the kind of like feisty, like will beat you up type deal, and is like an anthropology student, which is pretty cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
fun.
But yeah, oh, there's so many other partners I'll talk about too, as I kind of talk about the environment. So that you do get that, like, even though Rogueport's like, you're like, what? Mario? This isn't a Mario game. What's happening here? You
Yeah.
immediately are dumped into what feels like a standard Mario environment that you would see like in like, World 1-1
Yeah.
type deal. Um, you've got like Bogley Woods, which is kind of like the enchanted fairy woods that's like almost looks like a winter woods of like white
It
cherry
does.
blossom
Yeah.
trees. Yeah, and then you meet her name's Flurry, Madame Flurry, and
Cute.
she's a ghost. She's an old opera performer
Oh,
that
cool.
Yeah.
retired and wants to come back, and perform more. And she's really funny.
Yeah.
And has uh actually all the partners have special abilities when you're fighting, but also special abilities when they're just out walking with you
Yeah.
of things that they can do. And
Like there's areas you can't get through when you first pass by them, but once you get your little partner,
yes,
head
there's
back.
so many, and the way they introduce all these mechanics is brilliant. So like Goombella, hers is tattling, like she's an anthropology student, and her tattle ability just tells you information about enemies, so like you can learn like their full HPs and stuff after you tattle on
Yeah.
them, and there's a whole book that collects all the tattles, you know?
That is
And
so
then
cool.
also like if you're just in an area and you're like, what am I doing? I haven't played this game in 6 months, you can just like pull her up and she'll just tell you, you know?
Yeah.
And if you stand next to each person in tattle, she will give you insight. Like this guy recently broke up with his girlfriend and he's really depressed about like that type of like it's so and they wrote this for every
Phenomenal.
NPC.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Like I'm like thinking the sheer amount of like being somebody that's on the other end that like fill out spreadsheets and stuff with dialogue and
Right.
we call it black box BBT text or whatever. That the amount of work.
Yeah.
Wild. And I
So
also
much.
love to her sassiness comes out in her like again like her being like this guy just broke up. Like she'll be like this guy's kind of a loser and nobody likes to
Yeah.
talk to. Like she's like that
Oh my
type of like
gosh.
She is
yeah,
very
so funny.
blunt.
She's so funny. And so Koops is a Koopa, and so you can like hop on him and he'll spin out and his shell will can hit things. Including like you can hold him out and then go and then simultaneously you whack on a switch the same time that you his shell hits it. So you
That's
can do
cool.
like that kind of cool stuff. Madame Flurry, she can like blow winds, and so every now and then there'll be this is again with it being Paper Mario, they play off of that paper mechanic so many times.
Mhm.
There's like this one room that you're in, there's like these ancient underground tunnels below Rogueport, which is something I haven't mentioned yet. But of course, that's where the Thousand-Year Door is, and
Yeah.
this
Classic.
ancient thousand-year-old city, these ruins were built around the door, and nobody knows why they were, ruins
Mm.
now. But and you get to explore these ruins. That's like a really big part of the game. And there's a bunch of people living in the ruins too that are also like the worst of the worst because Rogueport's
Oh,
above there. They
crime.
can't even go
Yep.
into Rogueport.
Yeah.
They're like down in the ruins. But um there's at one point you're exploring the ruins and there's like a little like clearly like a box on the wall and part of the corner is like peeled. And if you
Yeah.
see that peeled corner, you pull Flurry out, you use the wind thing and she'll like blow. But there's like a
That's
lot of other
clever.
moments where you have to like blow leaves off things or like whatever.
Hmm.
And that's really useful. Or she can also temporarily confuse enemies when you encounter them in the wild by blowing wind at them, and they'll get kind of dizzy, and then you can run away. Um,
Nice.
and then the next environment is my favorite. I'm
Hmm.
gonna just briefly mention it, but it's an island floating in the sky dedicated to pro wrestling. Um, that's the whole island.
That's it.
It's
What?
it's peak fiction. I'm not even joking. It's one of my favorite. Like sometimes I'll play through the game just to get to the third chapter, and then I'll be like, should I just restart so I could do it all over again? Because I love that one so much. I'm not even joking. I'll talk a lot more about it later, like as my favorite thing, but
Mhm.
you pick up a partner there who is a little baby Yoshi.
Oh,
Right.
cute.
Yeah.
And you get to name him, and his color changes depending on how long it takes for you to hatch him.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
adorable.
There's like a
People
certain
spend so much time trying to get the specific color that they're trying to get for him.
because there's a certain cycle of colors and each one has like an X amount of time attached to it. So if it takes you get the egg, and if you hatch it within X amount of time, you'll get this color, X amount it'll be, and
Whoa.
then it will just cycle back. So and then so when you are on this pro wrestling island, Mario is a pro wrestler, and the Great Gonzalez is his name. And that's what this baby Yoshi knows you as. He doesn't call you Mario. He calls you Great Gonzalez the
Does,
entire
yeah.
rest
Oh
of the
my
game.
goodness. That is
He's like this
phenomenal.
little like Boston accent tiny Yoshi.
Yeah.
And then the next area is this like these spooky haunted woods, which actually kind of are scary. I'll get to that in a
Yeah.
set again later, but spooky haunted woods feels very like Luigi's Mansion, full of
Mm.
Yeah.
ooze. And there is actually throughout the game, there's been this like posse of like they're called the Sirens, or these three girl witch ghost characters. They're all purple that are coming after you. They're kind of like they were hired by the X-Dots to find you and take you
Uh,
down. You progressively beat them, and then you run into them in Twilight Woods. One of them ends up switching sides and joins your team. Her name's Vivian.
oh, that's
I
cool.
love her. She's got like this cotton candy pink hair. She's adorable. Um, there's a lot about her, especially with the remake, that's important,
Yeah.
but like She she can like hide in the shadows. Like she can pull you down into the shadows. And so some of the mechanics of like you're in a room, there's spikes that pop up out of the ground. She can actually hide you in the ground and you're immune to the spikes. And then the spikes go down, you can pop back out. There's like again,
That's
in
cool.
like Baby Yoshi, you can ride on the Baby Yoshi to like speed travel or even hover over short distances. Like you would a regular Yoshi, but he's very tiny, so he's clearly straining the entire time that you're doing it.
Yeah.
Um, the next location's a literal shipwrecked pirate island. Like
Oh, cool.
Pirate Cortez treasure. His ghost is haunting it, and that's where one of the crystal stars is. The teammate that joins your team in that one, he's a bomb,
Oh, cool.
and he's so cool. He's this old weathered sea dog, and there's this like beautiful story about like how his wife, was waiting for him and she
Oh
knew
my
that he loved the
gosh.
sea and her. And she ended up dying one time when he was on this ship and he came back and he vowed never to sail again. And then like, you talk to him and you end up finding his wife's last letter to him and give it to him and it convinces him to go out on the sea adventure again,
Yeah.
and
What
he's
in the
this crusty
world?
old sea dog. Yes! And he blows up. Then he's fine.
Oh,
Which is
Yeah.
the thing
okay.
that I think bothered me about future Mario games that was Paper Mario games. In Origami King, there was a bomb that blows up and he actually just dies. And that didn't make any sense at all, given the lore of the other game. Like, because Captain, this captain's fine.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so anyways,
And
he's really cool.
it didn't wasn't I feel like there was a bomb a pink bomb in the first game too, and she exploded all the time and stuff. So it's like I don't know why this one character in this later game is a one
Right.
shot kind of a thing.
I'm not going to get started on that one. That's a different. I want to feel happy. How about that? Okay, and then
Valid.
yeah, and then the next few locations kind of wild. It's like actually like the moon.
Yeah.
Or
You
there's also
always
like a
have to go to the
train.
moon. Always.
Yeah.
There's a whole mystery on a train that like I didn't really appreciate when I was a kid because I hadn't yet watched like Murder on the Orient Express or a lot of other
Hmm.
things. But like now I'm like, wow, that's really fun. There's a lot of like they literally have a detective penguin who thinks that you're Luigi.
I forgot
Oh
about
my
that. Yeah.
goodness.
There's a whole
That's
lore with Luigi in this game too. It's wild.
Yeah, no, that's Luigi hangs out in Rogueport. You could talk to him. He's going on his own adventure
Yeah.
to
Oh,
save
that's
It,
Princess
cool.
Eclair, the Waffle Kingdom, and so he will tell
he
you
is
stories
a
about this.
he's kind of smack Luigi in those games, honestly.
I kind of
Everything you
well, it's
hear.
his partners are with him, and then when you talk to him, he tells you this amazing story. You talk to the partners, and they're like, "Yeah, like he's an idiot. Like,
Yeah.
like he did everything wrong." Actually, like one guy's like, "Oh, like at one point he goes to like race at like a Mario Kart type circuit deal because he needs to win this race because part of he's looking for compass pieces
That's
instead of
right.
crystals. Yes, and
Yeah.
he's trying to find it's the exact same getup because one of the compass pieces is in Princess Eclair's crown. And so if you collect all the compass pieces, it'll point to her. Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
It's so funny. And so he's like competing in this race, and if he wins the race, then he'll get the compass piece because it's in the trophy or something. And he's talking about all of it, and apparently all the other racers wreck or whatever, blah blah. Well, you talk to the little guy next to him. I think they're called Beezles or something, Beetle or whatever. And he has a wrench on his back, and he mentions that actually Luigi just immediately wrecked his car, and that he had like borrowed from this bug guy, and that's why he's following Luigi because he wants to get his money back. And it's like that it's not like a fun partnership. It's more of like you owe me money. you
Yep.
Oh
you
my
are a liability. And it's
gosh.
like it's
Yeah.
so funny. Yeah. One guy gets grotesquely burned and is hanging out. Oh, it's a bloop. It's a bloopy, the little squid guys. One of them gets completely
Oh,
deep
that's
fried, and
right.
he's following Luigi because he's so angry that he like permanently scarred. It's really yeah. It's
This
funny because
game,
this is a kids game. This is a
yeah.
kids game. Um, but no, literally the moon is like the last, and
Yeah.
it's so funny because like I'm describing all these places, and I'm gonna like linger a bit on Glitzville, the Pro Wrestler Island, because
Yeah.
again, geek fiction, but every single one of these places is completely bonkers and wild, and they fully committed to each and every one of them in ways that I'm just amazed by. So like Glitzville, um, this whole chapter starts with you just needing to get a blimp ticket. And so you have to like find this mob boss's daughter ran off with his top guy, and you have to go
Forgot that's
find
what's
him.
here.
Yeah, no, you find them and then you convince them to come back, and then they like, and the mob boss guy, by the way, is like one of those guys from Mario Sunshine.
Yeah.
I can't remember what they're called, but yeah. And so you convince them to go back, and they like bury the hatch and talk it.
Yeah.
You get a blimp ticket from the mob boss guy. You literally have to go into this back casino room to get access to the mob boss guy. It's like a whole thing.
Oh my
Wild. So you
goodness.
get the ticket. You go up to this island that is just pro wrestling, and you see, oh my God, the crystal star is on the belt of the champion.
Of course it is.
Yep.
The champion's kind of like an anime chicken. His name's Rockhawk.
Ah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Anime chicken.
I mean, like, just yeah, he's like Goku chicken.
I
Just
gotta
look him
Google
up.
Yeah.
this.
Goku
Yeah.
chicken.
Rock Hawk,
Yeah,
Paper Mario.
Paper Mario Thousand Year Door Rock.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
and
Okay.
so you enter into this this pro wrestling tournament. You start off in the rookie leagues, and there's like different, stories about like there's one guy you can talk to. He's a shy guy, and he tells you like, oh, there's the bathroom that's always locked, and no one ever comes out of it. There's guy wrestlers that go missing in the middle of the night. There's weird sounds that come from this room, but the room's always locked, and no one knows why. Blah blah blah. And he's telling all this stuff. And progressively, as you're playing, some wrestlers will go missing. You level up in the ranks too. It's the other thing. Like that was a cool way of integrating the turn-based fights. Is that each fight that
Yeah.
you're doing is actually like a tournament in front of people. Like you're doing like a pro
Oh, that's
wrestling
cool.
match. It's really,
Yeah.
that was really cool. Instead of just like here's an enemy you encounter in the wild, it's like you are now slotted to go up next to the and the Yoshi you get because there's a hot dog stand in front, and at one point you walk out and there's this egg bouncing around, and the pig that runs the hot dog stand. The pig that runs the hot
Speaking-
dog stand, yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my gosh, full circle. We were talking about pigs and hot dogs and games earlier.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I think it was before this podcast started,
Yeah.
but that was a whole,
Yeah.
yeah. But so you got this egg imported and was going to use it as an ingredient, and it's just not working out. So, but the egg is following you around like it likes you, and he's like, "What? You can just have it. You can just." And so this egg follows you around, and it's interesting because like while you're going through these fights, you get a weird like one of those ransom note magazine cutout letters that's like telling you to come over to this secret place, and you end up getting this special set of I think it's a special hammer. It might be a special set
Yeah.
of boots. You upgrade your shoes and your hammer at different points throughout this, and that allows you to do new abilities. But I think it's a hammer. And you get these notes and it'll tell you to go to certain places, and when you do, you uncover weird stuff. Like at one point, like I said, some of the wrestlers go missing and you just think that they leave. Well, at one point you get a note telling you to go to this place and you find one of the wrestlers and he's like barely alive. He's had all of his energy drained from him though. And you're
Yeah.
like, what's happening? Oh my God. It's a literal murder mystery type deal.
Yeah.
Like you're trying to figure out like, and you learn that the original champion before Rockhawk had gone missing and no one knows why. And it's like a literal murder mystery built into this again pro wrestling tournament. Like it's
Yeah.
so fun. And also then you get a little Boston baby Yoshi that
Yeah.
hatches that hangs out with you and calls you the Great Gonzalez,
Yep.
Not dad. Like
No, yeah.
he treats
also-
you like he's your uncle. Like that's
Yeah.
the dynamic. Yeah.
That is so
Seriously.
cool.
The funny thing is he's also one of the most useful in some ways, like side characters, because you get to ride him and you go a little bit faster. It's like I'm always that way in games. Like once you get that thing, you like in Pokemon when you get the bike kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Like I always use the
Yeah.
bike after that and stuff. And it's definitely like little baby Yoshi is that item slash character at that point. So I feel like he
Yeah.
gets a lot of use out of the rest, like compared to a lot of the rest of them because of that.
But no, it's just so I love it. I
Yeah.
absolutely love it. And I guess to talk a little bit about not just environments and places, but to talk a little bit about like, some of the gameplay and the mechanics.
Yeah.
So some of my big things is like, I think a lot about like the amazing ways that the people that made this game, I feel like this is one of those games where the whole team had to have just been under one roof, like the writers, the narrative designers, the same roof as the artists, the same roof as the game designers. Is that the case? Probably not, but maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's not, I mean, I'm not even under the same roof with any of my coworkers because we're all remote, but like,
Right.
but just some of the ways that they fully integrate stuff blows my mind. So like very, very first like chapter, first Crystal Star. Again, you're in this castle. There's a dragon in the castle. Her name is
Mhm.
Hooktail. And it's you're kind of going through all of this. It's interesting too because in the original she hated things that sounded like crickets, and you end up getting a special badge that when you equip it, it makes your hammer sound like a cricket. But
Oh,
in
that's
the
clever.
remake, they turned it into a frog, so it's Ribbit. I
Mm.
don't know if they just didn't like the sounds is pretty similar to me, but maybe they just felt like it was more froggy than crickety. I don't know. But
Hard to tell with that
that's like
stuff sometimes.
yeah, that's like a fun thing though that you end up getting at one point. But so you're fighting against her. And one thing I haven't mentioned about the battle mechanics that's so interesting is like
Yeah.
every time you enter into a turn-based battle, I mentioned the heart points, I mentioned the flower points, I mentioned the badge points. There's like a whole amazing layout they do with the battle. A lot of times turn-based, you think like Pokemon, and
Mhm.
that is a very, very indicative turn-based type environment. This one though, it's set up like a stage. Like you're like at a play, like you were performing,
That's
right?
cool.
And while you're on the stage performing, there's all like a little audience
Yeah.
that is watching you, and this audience changes out as you play through
Oh,
different
cool.
houses.
Yeah.
When you're at the spooky haunted area, the whole audience is like ghost or whatever, depending on where you're at. Um, it's usually populated with enemies. It could be like,
Mm.
So what's interesting about that is like there's different like, you know, um monster types in Mario. There's like Koopas, there's
Mhm.
Goombas, there's Boos or whatever. Every now and then people in the audience will throw items at you. And those items change depending on what is throwing it at you.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
Um
cool.
so like Koopas
Yeah.
will throw something called courage shells, which will like boost your defense, I think is what it does. So that's really fun. And also sometimes they actually just throw rocks though. Like and that's the thing
True.
is you have to know like they will hold the item and you'll get an alert on your screen. You'll go, oh, and you like look in the audience, and sometimes you're like, oh wait, that's just a mushroom. That's good for me. But I was like, oh, it's a rock. And if it's a rock, if you hit X, you can hop in and then like hit the audience member
Yeah.
with like whack them. But you want to make sure you only whack them when they're gonna like hurt you, because otherwise that feels bad.
Yeah.
That
um,
is
and
fantastic.
Oh, it
Yeah.
gets better. So sometimes audience members will like hop up on and run backstage, and then they'll like pull like a rope and a bucket will fall. Sometimes on you, sometimes on your opponent. There's different sometimes elements on the stage of like cardboard trees that like if you whack something, every now and then the cardboard trees will start to wiggle and fall over and hit.
That is
Yeah.
And
cool.
and on your side too, so this is stuff you have to be prepared for. So these all these other additional elements, like if you just leave the turn-based game sitting, you walk away, like you could get injured or whatever. There's a lot of different interesting things that'll happen that kind of help keep you engaged.
Yeah.
And then there's also like little quick time things. If you like nail attacks, you can hit these extra buttons to increase like Mario will like, whack a guy with a hammer and then do backflips. And that's the thing too, is you can also build up when you empower the audience and like wow them, you get star power, and whenever you get another crystal star, that's a whole other set of abilities of things you can
Yeah.
do. And those things are powered up only by audience cheering you on.
That is so
Yeah.
cool.
And if you keep biffing attacks and you do badly, people like they leave.
Yeah.
So it's up to you to like try to perform well, hit the quick times, do all this stuff because that will maximize your audience. So I bring all this up,
So
right? Because
clever.
at the end of the first chapter, you've been doing a fair enough amount of battle that like at first the like whole stage audience thing, you're like, whoa, 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 this is wild. And then
Yeah.
you kind of get used to it. You kind of get used to it, you get used to the audience and then throwing items at you or whatever. Well, you're battling Hotel this dragon, and that like you learn like one of the letters like she will try everything to like if you're about to take her out, she'll try everything to convince you, but you can't trust her. So she starts trying to like beg and like barter, and she's like, I'll give you like 1 billion coins, I'll give you like this rare treasure, and then she's like, you can smell my feet, they're a delicacy. That's literally one of the
What?
things she offers you. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so you turn her down every time, right? And then what happens is she's like, oh, I can't fool you, can I? She pulls out of the like stage area, and then she eats half of the audience.
Yeah.
And then the rest of them are all running away. All these toads
Oh
are
my
screaming, like
gosh.
everyone's.
Yeah.
And she regains health by eating the audience.
Yeah.
And it's one of
That's
those
so
like,
morbid.
yeah. Well, I mean, okay, when you beat her though, she spits up everybody that she's ever eaten.
Okay. That
Yeah.
makes it better, I guess.
Well, and Coop's dad. That's part of the reason why Coops joins your team is because his dad was eaten by
No.
Hooktail. Yes, but he's fine. He was just hanging out in her belly for like 10 years or something. I'm not exaggerating. That's
How
like
does
I
she
forgot
not
it was 10
digest?
years.
How does she get health back from them, but she doesn't digest them?
this is something called a video game where that stuff doesn't matter.
I
We don't
know.
ask those kinds of
I
questions,
know.
Caitlin.
Not only is it a video game, it's a kids. It's an E for everyone game. So it's
Yes.
thus it's
I
fine.
just sometimes I like to ask the questions because I have the thought of how does that work in terms of the laws of physics.
It's that this is made for kids and everyone needs to
Caitlin,
stay alive.
That's a good
Everybody in the
point.
game is made of paper.
That's a great point. That's a great
Actually,
point.
so that
Yeah.
that's something is that integration of you just get so used to it. You're not even thinking of and it didn't even occur to me. Oh my God, she ate I was shocked. But it's
Yeah.
so amazing though, because it like once again draws your attention, like you're live, like you're doing this live. There's like people here, and it makes you like think outside the box again, right? And
Yeah.
this isn't the only time that game does that. This game consistently does that the entire time. Like
That is so
there's
cool.
so it's called Paper Mario because throughout the game you unlock these little black chests, and when you unlock them, there's these little entities inside that curse you. And they've been trapped in these chests for 1,000 years. They've been trapped in
Door.
these chests
Yeah.
for 1,000 years. There's like four of them that you open up, and each one like they probably like, please find the key, please. And then you like unlock it, and they pop out and they go, ha ha, it's you. I'm gonna curse you. And they're like, but this curse is so horrible. I'm gonna at least tell you. That way you can like fully understand how horrible it is. So the first one is literally that if you stand on an airplane platform and it lights up, if you press Y, you can now turn into a paper airplane and fly somewhere. That's the first curse.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And then the second curse, because this happens to you 4 times.
Yeah.
And
Oh my
I love
gosh,
that they're
okay.
all done. So you get to that point too. I remember being a kid and I'm like, oh, you're gonna curse me? I can't wait. And like that's
Yeah.
such a fun thing to like. And so second one, if you hold down R, you turn sideways and you are thin as a piece of paper.
Ah.
Yeah.
Third one is if you turn let's see. Yeah, you turn sideways thin as a piece of paper, and then if you like kind of go back and forth a couple times, you will roll yourself up like a burrito, and then you can
That's
roll
right.
underneath small gaps. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
And also like kind of evade enemies like they don't notice you as fast. Not like you can still accidentally roll directly into one and then start a
Mhm.
fight. But and then the last one is these little wooden platforms that turn you into a boat.
Yeah, that's right.
Sorry.
Across water.
Like you stand on them and they turn you into a boat, or
You stand, yeah, so it's like the little platforms will always be they only appear in certain areas.
okay.
Yeah.
Right.
That are wrapped around gameplay. So
Okay.
you're not just gonna turn into a boat in the middle of, and then just like
On the moon.
boat around on dry land. Like that doesn't
Yeah.
happen.
Okay.
Like,
That
when
makes
you
sense.
the boat ones all look like docks. They look like little wooden docks.
Okay.
And so
Yeah.
I bring up this stuff because I think that's so fun to
Yeah.
like have that mechanic built in as a curse. I also like another thing about the mechanic. I absolutely love going back to Rogueport, why it's one of my favorite home bases in a game. You consistently return back to this place, and every time you come back, you have new abilities and you have new partners that have their own abilities.
Mm,
Yeah.
And so when you look around Rogueport, you are encouraged to see it through new eyes each time.
that's cool.
And so when you're first running around Rogueport, there's a lot of stuff you might kind of miss. One thing that you notice right off the bat is that there's a chest on that's like suspended on this platform, and you like look at it and you can't get to it. But
Yeah.
you know you will. It's actually one of the last things that you can access, which was cool, is that it's just there the whole time. You end up getting this mega jump ability where you can jump up into it and it like
Oh,
bops it
cool.
off.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Classic
Very,
Mario.
very side scroller Mario.
exactly like that. Exactly like that. Yeah. But like one that you get pretty quickly though, this is after chapter 1, is that ability to turn sideways. And so at one point you're walking and there's like two buildings that are close to each other, but not completely. And you're like, hey, because like when you're first going through, you're like, oh yeah, there's just like a random gap.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But like the second you get that ability, you're looking at the world
Mm-hmm.
different.
Mm-hmm.
And so now suddenly this place you've already been to seems new again. And
Yeah.
so
That's
you
cool.
have that with Rogueport is and these abilities, each one of these abilities encourages you to see the world new and different, regardless of how many times you've been at a place. That's, I
Yeah.
think, one of my favorite parts about this game that they do consistently well.
That is
Yeah.
so cool.
I definitely agree with that. Okay, really quickly. Sorry, got lost with my thing. I do want to touch on really quickly who's your favorite character in the game.
Ooh, I do love the baby Yoshi. Again, you can name it. I always
Yeah,
named it Baxter.
That's
I like
Um,
that
cute.
name, yeah.
yeah, he's really cute. He's kind of feisty. He's always threatening people, which is funny because he's got like small dog energy.
Absolutely,
Um,
yeah.
some of his special abilities, he can summon a bunch of Yoshis too to
Oh,
stampede
fun.
enemies, which is pretty funny. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really cute. I really like Vivian. She's like the little purple ghost that she's like the enemy that crosses over to be a part of your team. She's very sweet. Her story is really interesting because in the original Japanese translations, in the GameCube version, she
Mm.
makes a mention about how she used to be a boy and is now a girl. And
Mm-hmm.
then when that was localized into English, they took that out.
Mm.
They scrubbed it in the original GameCube. So that was a big conversation people were having about when they announced the remasters. Like, are they
Mm-hmm.
going to scrub it again for the English translation? Are they gonna? And they did actually honor it. But it was interesting because then you had a bunch of people saying that they had like that they had thrown that in there or whatever when
Mm.
it was actually a part of the game that was supposed to be there to begin with that had gotten left out. So that's
Yeah.
in localization such an interesting. I know people that are localizers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and translators, and that's such a rich area. It's like an art form. It's not just like word A goes to word B and other like there's
Right.
a
Yeah.
lot to it. But yeah, so that's really interesting with her character, and she's someone too that's kind of gotten like a kind of a renaissance I saw, especially when that was coming out. A lot of people were posting about her in particular,
Mm.
and a
Yeah.
lot of I saw her profile pic as a lot of different people's avatars for still even too, depending on where I'm at. Um, I feel like all of the partners that you have in general are just absolutely stellar because they talk about like the silhouette theory, of like if you can see the silhouettes,
Yeah.
and I feel that not only with like their silhouette, like literally their silhouettes when you're pulling them up on the menu, you can see like, oh yeah, that's the Yoshi. Oh yeah, that's Koops. Oh yeah, that's Kumbella.
Yeah.
I feel that with their dialogue. Like you could pick out their
That's
lines
cool.
of dialogue from a hat, and I can immediately that has to be, the captain, that has to be Flurry, that has to be Vivian,
Mm.
because they all speak very differently.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's another thing. Any encounter that you have that's a cutscene, you can have any partner with you. They wrote dialogue for every
Yep.
partner.
Wow.
And there's only some scenes where they're like, okay, this has to be a Coop scene because you're talking to Coop's dad. That
Mm-hmm.
they'll auto switch the partners at. But for the most part, though, if it's just some random cutscene, they have dialogue for every partner for that cutscene, depending on who you
Wow.
happen to have in your party. So
Yeah.
it's kind of fun to swap them out at different moments, just to kind of, and they all have again very different ways of speaking. Like I said, like the little baby Yoshi threatens everybody,
Yeah. It's
you
true.
know, and and Coops tries to talk people down. It's just
Mm.
fun. And
Yeah.
there's actually a secret partner I didn't mention. Her name is Miss Mouse. She's
Oh,
kind of
I
like a
totally forgot
Catwoman.
about her. Yeah.
There's like a little help board that you can do special missions at. And when you were doing that special missions board, there's one that you eventually unlock, and it has you go back to Hooktail Castle, that first castle.
Mm.
And this is later in the game. So you now have, I think, the bomb that allows you to blow up stuff. I think that's how you have to be kind of far in the game. And when you suddenly go to this area, you see there's a crack in the wall that you probably didn't even notice the first time because you
Mm-hmm.
weren't even thinking about that the first time because you didn't know that you'd be able to blow up walls later.
Yeah.
And so you blow it up and you go through there and there's a special badge and then Miss Mouse appears and then she offers to join your team and you can say yes or no. But she's cool. She can like steal stuff from people and there's like a couple other fun
Mm.
things. She's funny. She's a little mouse and her tail curls up into a heart shape.
Hmm.
That's cute.
And she has
She
a mask. She
also,
also,
yes, yeah.
yeah, she runs the badge store. And it's funny because if you go up at the badge store, some of the characters, Goombas, they all look alike.
Hmm.
Some of them, but you look at her and she's the only mouse that has, I think, like a heart with her
Hmm.
tail. And I remember being like, hey. And I talked to her and she's like, oh, hi, welcome to the badge shop or whatever. And I'm like, okay. And then I kept talking to her and she's like, okay, look, it's me. But I'm at my job. Can
I'm
you
at
can we
work.
stop? Like, yeah, literally, because she pops up in a few times when you're out on things and she like is stealing badges and she's like, oh, hi, Mr. I can't remember what she calls you, but she thinks you're cute. She thinks
Oh
Yeah,
Mario's
my
cute.
she
goodness.
flirts with Mario. I think, doesn't Flurry also flirt with Mario, or is
Yeah,
she just
Mario's like Pedro Pascal in this game. Like everybody's
literally,
flirting with
yes?
Oh
him.
my goodness.
Now I'm just thinking of a live action Mario and
With
Pedro
Pedro
Pascal.
Pascal?
It
Stick
Yes.
would
him in
be
everything.
Luigi.
Let's just go.
I mean, he's gonna be Mr. Fantastic coming up soon,
Look, he
so
should just play every character. He could also be
there you go.
Peach. He
Oh
could
my
also be Toad.
No, who is it? Pedro Pascal, and who's the other guy that everybody's like?
oh gosh. Nope, I know what you're talking about. He's Moon
Weird Al
Knight.
Yankovic.
No. That would be really
No?
funny, but
No,
no.
Moon Knight. Yeah,
It's
Moon Knight.
Isaac something. Something Isaac.
Oh!
Moon
I
Knight.
can't remember. Moon
Um,
Knight. I don't remember his name
I'm gonna
now.
Google it really quick.
Okay.
What
Him
was the
and
he that was he the guy that was in Star Wars? The newer ones? That Isaac?
Yeah.
yes. Yes, yes.
Oh, come
Starts
on,
with a
give me
P,
the.
I feel like. He's also a P name. No,
It's prob
No,
it's the
no.
character's name.
Oscar Isaac.
Oscar Isaac. It was two first names. I don't know
Yeah.
why I forgot about that.
Mario and
Yeah.
I think
Luigi,
about
Pedro
hot
Pascal, and
dogs.
Oscar Isaac.
Get back to hot dogs.
Back to hot dogs.
Back to
Oscar.
hot dog.
It's all coming back. It is full circle back to hot dogs, as it
Hot
always
Always.
should
dogs.
be.
Yes.
But
Hot
yeah, in
dogs.
general, like I love I think it's not just the partners in this game, it's like the random NPCs.
Mm-hmm.
Like you'll go
Yeah.
talk to random mayor in Coopville and he
Mm.
calls you Murphy and he can't hear anything. He's like chronically deaf.
That's
And
right.
so he's like, "Oh yes, I am." Like you'd be like, "Hey, wait, like how can I get to the Hotel Castle?" And he'll be like, "Right, I've had this house for many years." And I'm like, "Okay, like I can't." It's an ongoing joke that people in this game can't remember to call you Mario. Like
Yes, that's
Mm.
right.
that's an ongoing. There's like this penguin detective in one of the last levels. That's like the one on the train, and he's this
Yeah.
like super sleuth type guy, and he looks at you and he uses his skills of deduction and immediately presumes that you are actually Luigi and calls you Luigi the entire time. And then towards the very end, you get to like the fancy place that you took the train for. And he is mega rich and owns a giant mansion, and so he can goof off and be the worst detective on the planet. And I'm like, that's fair. I understand that. And
Wow.
if you are exploring his super rich mansion and you go off to this far corner, you can pick up a badge that's the Luigi badge. And if you wear it, your clothes look like Luigi.
Oh my
And it
gosh.
gets better. It gets better because there's a special badge that you can buy. That's the Wario badge.
Oh
Put on that
no.
makes your clothes look like Wario. And if you have both that and the Luigi badge equipped at the same time, you look like Waluigi.
Wow.
That is
It's amazing.
fantastic.
It's
That's
so
great.
it's details like that that I'm like, oh my God. And actually, this was like another thing I had on my list of things I have to bring up as to like kind of like things as a gameplay designer that make me
Mhm.
really excited too. But it's the restraint that they
Yeah.
show while also the like willingness to go off the rail. And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
those two things at once. Like, let's have an entire island dedicated to pro wrestling. Also, it's a murder mystery. What? What? Amazing, right? Amazing. But then like on top of that though, um there's like this one moment that I mentioned those characters trapped in the chest that
Uh-huh.
curse you, right?
Mhm.
Oh, that's right.
And you learn like they were in the chest for 1,000 years, and you know the 1,000 year door,
Mhm.
it's 1,000 years old. And you know that the town, the ruins, like was it destroyed 1,000 years ago? Did it just fall apart because of time? there's all these different ideas like swirling around. And at one point, if you are goofing around in this one part of Rogueport, this is like later in the game, you get this ability. Like I said, you can jump really high. You get
Right.
this ability, and at one point you can goof around and accidentally land on one of the roofs, the
Okay.
rooftops. And as you're running around the rooftop, there's a random like old person that you can talk to, and they'll be like, "Hey, I'll tell you a story for 10 coins." What? And they have tons of them. Like, you want to hear the story of, and you just like, one after the other, you can pay
Mhm.
them coins, and they'll tell you this story about this evil demon queen that was like ruling the world, and there were these four different warriors that they talk about,
Mm.
and how they learned to take the crystal stars from her and use them to seal her away
Oh,
behind a door after, she like just causes all this destruction. But
interesting.
She cursed them to like they have to wander, and the second that they stop wandering that and they fall in their place, that they will be locked up.
Turned to oh.
And like I said, when I mentioned restraint, this is not a thing that is ever a classic like murder mystery moment. You get to the end and they're like, bad guy explains how he did it. And it's
Hmm.
because the
Yeah.
writer wants you to know how smart they are,
Hmm.
Yeah.
right? They really
Hmm.
want you to know how clever they are for putting together this whole thing. Or like classic
Yeah.
murder mystery moment, like the who done it and why. It's that
Yeah.
whole moment, which feels very satisfying in a murder mystery. It kind of feels sort of lame in the like superhero thing, but
Yeah.
like here's my evil master plan as to why I have to turn
Yeah.
everybody into licorice or something. But like,
Dr. Doofenshmirtz was really good at that.
oh,
Yeah.
perfect. I actually love there's one episode where he had a device that put every mime in an invisible box,
Oh
Yep.
my gosh, that's right.
which is really funny, but also an existential horror. Brian
Yeah.
Evanson wrote a really horrible short story that was a horror about that.
Oh no.
But I mentioned the restraint though, in that I had discovered this person on this roof totally by accident. And that
Mm.
these are all questions you have as you engage throughout the world, but there's so many fun things happening.
Yeah.
There's so
Yeah.
many other things happening at the same time that it's even though it's in the back of your head, you're not like actively like, huh, the way that you are with
Yeah.
other plot points, like where's Peach? Like, what's
Right.
happening with Egg's not, like all that stuff's at the top of your mind. So when you find this random guy at the top of a roof and you just pay him coins to tell you the entire deep lore of the whole game,
Yeah.
Wow.
that's so funny to me. And I actually can't think of a better way
Yeah.
to have that lore be uncovered.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's so funny. And that's kind of what, for me, I have to remind myself. I feel like there's that huge iceberg effect as
Mm.
a writer, as a game designer, of like all this stuff you need to know. That Dino
Right.
Western I was talking about.
Yeah.
We had a question of like it's very hard to design a game that is a dino western where all of their steeds are dinosaurs and then to not include a single horseshoe. Because if
Ooh.
you include a horseshoe, because especially because we do puzzle games, so we do a lot of like,
Yeah.
little symbols here as a clue for this, and we didn't have a single horseshoe because it was like if we have a horseshoe, that implies they ride horses.
Where are the horses?
They would, where are the horses?
But then also it's a
What does that
Western. So your brain's
right,
like, there
right.
should be horseshoes.
Right. So it's
Yeah.
like, and our game was short enough that we were able to skirt the issue by just never having a horse or a horseshoe present. We don't have to answer the
Yeah.
question of like,
Hmm.
what does this T-Rex eat? It's kibble. What's the kibble made out of? Don't ask that. Like,
Yeah.
it's not the point of the game here, right? But
Yeah.
like, there's that
But
iceberg effect, and then there's other stuff where I'm like, oh my God, I know the whole deep story of the bad the outlaw character in that game. I know her whole backstory. And that's
Yeah.
not a thing that you see at all in this game.
yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
She makes one dialogue line comment about how she used to be a blacksmith. That's it. But the stuff that as a creator that you get excited about and you love it and you want other people to be excited about it, and you have to
Yeah.
parse out, well, what do they actually need to know?
Right.
And what do I need to know in order to make this world feel full and developed and like it exists outside of the player engaging
Yeah.
with it.
And that's what
And-
fanfic is for.
It's that gap. Yeah, so
Yep.
that's
Fanfic. All right. So kind of wrapping it up. Okay. So generally we do nostalgia rating for the games. Now, what we talked about earlier, not Caitlin has never played this game before.
Nope.
So Caitlin doesn't have an input about that. I have a little bit of input because I played most of the game. I will be fully honest though, I didn't finish it, and it wasn't anything against the game itself. I actually did enjoy it. It's just when it came out and I started playing it, that's when I've gotten more into reading as my hobby. So I ended up like I have not been able to focus on a game for longer than like a couple of days for over a year and a half now and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's nothing on the game. It's just where my brain's at and stuff right now. But I really enjoyed it. I mentioned earlier that for me, I had played the first one, which I think it was just called Paper Mario. I don't remember exactly. And I don't remember a ton about it, and I didn't like go looking into it or anything. But vibe wise, because that's honestly what most of our podcasts about is about vibes, is I enjoyed it a lot because I loved the like different steps you had to take to get to finding the I don't remember. I think it was still crystal stars or whatever in that one or what something. But like I remember playing through one of the sections and like really enjoying it. And again, this is the first one. And this made me a little bit nostalgic for that time period when I was
Mm,
like a kid playing on a like N64 randomly at my grandparents' house. And then also just also nostalgia of the GameCube because that was like a
yeah.
huge era for me and it was for Caitlin and stuff. And so I kind of honestly give this like a I'm gonna say a 4 for me nostalgia
Hmm.
wise, and it wasn't because I played the game originally years ago or any of that kind of stuff. It was like a series of things that make me feel nostalgic by playing it and stuff. So that's the rating I would give it. Now, Robin, this is your game. This is like you said, it's one of your core games essentially, for you as a person and stuff. So what would your rating be for this out of 5?
Like 11.
Yeah.
I
That's the
just,
right response.
again,
Yeah.
I feel like foundational is probably one of the best ways to describe it. The current
Yeah.
video game I'm working on, I am thinking about this game. I'm thinking about like the Ghibli
Mm,
Yeah.
movies. I'm thinking about like, I mean, even like some of the Studio Leica movies that I kind of
Yeah.
sort of grew up with. Not quite. I mean, a lot of them came out with when I was a teenager,
mm,
But
post,
still important. Yeah.
It is, it is. I feel like it was like for a different part of my life. I think Coraline came out when I was in middle school.
Yeah.
Um, but like, yeah, that being said, I this is one of those games. I feel like for me it came out at a perfect time, or at least when I had encountered it, I think which
mhm,
was about when it came out, maybe a few years after. When I was a kid, when I did have those kind of endless hours to be able to
mhm.
just goof off in a game and just live in it, like just like
Yeah.
exist within it, and to like the fact that you consistently return to Rogueport, for me, it was kind of like a feeling I got about like my Animal Crossing village. It was a feeling I got with like certain towns in Pokemon, especially like
Yeah.
places I would plant berries and visit a lot. It reminds me of
Yeah.
like the Lost Woods in Ocarina of Time,
Mhm,
Yeah.
where I visited them so much they were real places for me. Like
mhm,
I could spatially navigate through them, and I
mhm.
remembered them, and I remembered how all of it felt. And
Yeah.
for me, Rogueport and even parts of the underground area, the ancient ruins, a lot of the game has that for me. It's just like an area that it's like coming back to a childhood bedroom type.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and and there's so many things too. Like I come back and I play it again. I was watching Napoleon Dynamite with Nathan for the first time in like probably a decade. But
Yeah.
I loved when that movie came out, I immediately imprinted it onto my heart as like a
Yeah.
core aspect of my
Yep.
personality, you
Yeah.
know? And so I was watching it recently with him, and I was able to like say the lines before they were almost the whole
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
And he's like,
Yeah.
what? But like it was because I had so permanently etched it into
Yeah.
me that it was just, and I feel
You
that way kind of,
you
yeah,
did the dance.
I did. I did
What
do the
what
dance in front of it. So I back in high school, it was my
Yes,
senior
yeah.
year, and I was nominated for
That's what it was.
homecoming queen. And I was like, how was I nominated for homecoming queen? And then one of the teachers was like, I was like, how does and the teacher's like, so the teachers pick. I was like, that's why, because I was also like valedictorian and stuff. So I'm like, oh, okay, I got the throw me the bone type nomination, you know, I'll take it. And it was funny because there was 8 guys nominated, and then there was like a bajillion chicks, and
Yeah.
but they had 7 tuxedos, so or no, there was a bajillion guys and not that many chicks is what it was. And they ended up cutting it down to the 7 number of tuxedos for the guys. And they decided to just have the guys like one of them was gonna walk with 2 chicks. And I remember like when it came to I was like, no, this is a sign. So I volunteered to walk alone
Yeah.
and did the Napoleon Dynamite dance. And they put me last because not only was like senior all the senior nominees supposed to go last, but also I was going alone. So yeah. And this was
Yeah.
also the year Emma got nominated too. And the guy that she was supposed to walk with was kind of on the shorter side, so he told her not to wear heels, and she wore the tallest heels that she had.
Of
You
course
never
she
tell
did.
Emma not to do something.
Yeah.
Yes. So,
And you
but
too, both of you.
oh yeah, no, I did the Napoleon Dynamite dance in front of my entire school. It took me like
Yep.
a couple hours on a Sunday night to learn. It was not a big
Yeah.
deal. But
Phenomenal.
yeah, no, so but I feel like Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, when I'm going back and replaying it now, there's so many elements where I was like, oh, I still see myself in this and vice versa. Like again,
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
like I know why I write this character, this style of character that I keep coming back to, or this style of like even media, or like I've always kind of had a passing interest in pro wrestling since that. Like, and I was like, I
Oh.
wonder, and then I remember like replay this and I'm like, oh, that's why. Like, and yeah, even like my dialogue, I feel like it's not nearly as like I feel like goofy over the top, which I feel like it's supposed to be in this. Like it's very,
Yeah.
very,
Yeah.
very dialed up.
Again, an E for everyone game also.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, yeah, because
Yeah.
it's like you have to have something be extremely accessible for kids to be able to at a glance understand the context of this character, the ways they interact or whatever. But I
Yeah.
feel like even a lot of the characters I interact with, or like I write, like they also have that kind of pick a line out of a hat, you can tell who it's from type
Yeah.
dialogue. They all speak pretty distinct ways. Not like everyone has their own like, slang that's completely different from everyone else's, but more of just
This is
like
the cowboy. This is
The
Yeah.
Scottish Highland.
Boston.
The Scottish
Scot-
Highland
yeah.
man. This is the
yeah,
girl
but a
from
lot of like
Boston.
Yep.
when I've got that full ownership over a project, like the game I'm currently working on, that again is
Yeah.
very new.
Yeah.
That's gonna be definitely already as I'm writing some of these characters because it has a lot of these like sentient robots, and I'm thinking of like these partners in Mario, and they all have their own little one-off story. And a lot of these robots appear in these like one-off stories, like you meet one per chapter,
Yeah.
and they have like a whole little backstory with each one and a whole special way of talking. There's one that she's named Stanza, and she's gonna speak in
Cool.
I'm hoping to have her rhyme and speak kind of
Yeah.
like in like poems basically. So it's that kind of stuff of like that kind of thing feels very foundational to me and is something I keep coming back to
Yeah.
years later.
Yeah.
Brianna, is your copy of the Switch game physical or digital?
It's digital.
Dang.
I mean, I could let you borrow it for a little while because I haven't been playing it lately. So
It's true. Because after this discussion, now I want to play it.
it definitely
It's-
is a game you would like, Caitlin. I am pretty sure. Yeah. 100%. All right. So, all right, we're finishing out the podcast this episode. Robin, is there anything you want to promote before we end today?
You can play. I've got 2 games that just launched recently, which is bonkers for me to think about. So both of them are under the Haiku Games banner. One of them is called Dino Country. You can find it on the App Store. And it's Adventure Escape Mysteries is the name of our official app. And that's the library that has all of our games, including Dino Country. But if you just Google Dino Country Haiku, it'll pop up and you'll know it's a chick and her T-Rex named Sugar.
Yep.
And the other game that I was a part of that just launched recently was called Puzzle Town Mysteries, also available on the app stores, Google and iOS, Apple. And that one is about like a couple private investigators. It's kind of a Lily's Garden style of like you play a single level of a puzzle.
That's
There's a
right,
bunch
yeah.
of different, ours is different in that there's a library of puzzles. You get to pick which ones you play. So if you
Okay.
get bored of one type, you can swap to a different one. But every
That's
time you play,
nice.
yes, and every time you play a puzzle, you get a star and you spend stars on like investigating different rooms and learning, like collecting evidence items or whatever and learning. Most of the cases aren't murders. A lot of them have to do with like, here's like an attempted murder, or here's this stolen guitar, or oh my God, my cats went missing. You have to find them. So I think that makes it more fun, I
Yeah,
feel like, because you have to get more creative than and then he died, and then she died, and then
yeah,
I think it's interesting if the victims are still alive and they can speak for themselves.
absolutely,
What's
yeah. I love
the
that.
dino game?
It's called Dino Country, and it's on
Mm.
Adventure Escape Mysteries is the name of the library app that
I
has
see. Okay.
yes.
Then
That has all the Detective
yeah,
Kate games. And the one that I worked on
Ooh,
with Detective Kate was Vanishing Act.
yeah,
fun.
Yeah. And yeah,
awesome.
and not to like, but we have in fact announced that we have a new Detective Kate coming out soon.
Ooh.
So we are like in final stages of production, but it is officially announced, so I can talk about it.
Yeah,
And I think fans are going to be really, really excited about this one in particular.
love that.
Ooh.
All right. We don't really have a lot of people that listen at the moment, so Dad and Ben, you better go play the Robin's game
Yes.
whenever either of them get to this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? The cool thing about my games is that they are free to play when you pull up the game to play.
Yep.
It will like you have to watch one ad and then that will unlock the chapter, and then you can play anywhere from like 20 minutes to an hour depending on how bad you are and how much you get stuck uninterrupted. And then if you get stuck, you can watch hints for ads.
Yes,
Oh,
that's
or
that's
right.
ads
cool.
for
Yeah.
you can watch ads for
And
hits.
we don't
Watch
want
hints
more.
for ads.
You can pay stars to watch ads. That's our trade-off. Yeah. And then
Oh no. My
The
nightmare.
worst. Yeah.
but yeah, so we try to just really focus on the quality. We try to focus on just making games that feel rewarding and fun.
Mm.
If you've never played our games, it's a lot like the early 90s, like point and click, humongous games. If you've ever done Freddy Fazbear's
Yeah.
Pajamas games.
Yep.
It's that style, but like much, much more complicated puzzles and stuff like that.
Love
that
it.
I would recommend playing as like a teenager or adult for brain power,
Yeah.
And there's a few more games you can play with your kids, but that maybe your kids can't solve on their own.
Yeah.
So
Might
That's
need
cool.
a parent there. Yeah, love it. All right, throwing it back to you, Caitlin.
Heyo, I am still here. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Readers Clubhouse. If you like this discussion and you want to hear more, you can find us on YouTube and Spotify mostly every other Friday when I remember to edit the podcast and also post it. Whoopsie boopsie. You can check our episode description for our socials, and you can join us in the Clubhouse next time as we discuss. So I realized as I was editing the last one that I said we were going to be doing Lord Brocktree, and I didn't clock that until literally today as I was editing it. But next time we're doing Lord Brocktree. So, we just made you wait a whole month-ish.
Yeah.
Give or take a bit.
Whoopsie boopsie.
Whoopsie boopsie. Or womp
Whoopsie
womp womp,
boopsie.
as the 3-year-old I live with says. So
Yes.
she likes to sing it.
Isn't there womp womps or something in Mario?
Thwomp thwomps.
yeah,
Thwomp
Or
thwomps.
thwomp.
There
It's
we
a
go.
thwomp.
a swamp. Yeah.
Yeah. This,
Only to do the Mario death thing. What was it? I don't know.
They go like "Urgh," when they like crush you.
Or we can say what my friend Catherine says, there is a womp in my womp. So there's just lots of ways you can do it.
Oh, that's inappropriate. No.
There's a thwomp in my... Anyway, that's it. This is devolving. It is late. We must go.
Yes.
All right. See you guys in a couple of
Bye.
weeks.
Yes.
Oh, Robin, thank you so much for being here. Sorry, that
Yes.
should have been first thing, man alive.
Thank you so much for having me. I very much appreciate being on here anytime. I live at home in my remote working job and maybe go outside for a walk. And if, Nathan and I decide to do something fun, like go to the grocery store, and that's about that. So, yeah.
Domestic bliss.
Just hit me up when you want. I can talk as much as you want about nothing in particular.
I mean, so can we. This is
True.
I have a feeling this might be our longest episode ever.
Well, I mean, maybe we can make it two.
I might split it in half and then do part 1, part 2, but I'll post them on the same day probably. But
there you go.
Take
Love
your time.
That.
Real question for me is going to be, where in the freaking heck do I split it? That's going to be the real question. So that's
true.
the future Caitlin problem, not a today
Caitlin
Caitlin problem. The today Caitlin problem is, thank you guys. Robin, thank you. We'll have you back at some point, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So yes, the end. For now. See you guys in a few weeks when I finally finish editing all the things that we've recorded. Pray for me. Bye.
Bye.